Good afternoon, Littleton. Welcome to 01460 On the Go, the podcast for Littletonians by Littletonians. Today I'm here with Chief McCurdy again. You're gonna need to get a co-host chair, I think.
I think so.
This is third time?
Third time, correct, yeah.
Okay, so it's gonna be the charm, right?
Hopefully.
Pressure's on.
Or the total failure, one or the other.
And we're gonna get an update on some things that are happening with you in the department and around town as well. Let's start with the new fire truck that we appropriated for at town meeting.
Yeah, so the fire truck was appropriated at town meeting, so $1.3 million was voted on at town meeting in order to replace our engine one, which is a 2012 truck. Has some significant challenges, we'll say, mechanically, so the decision was made to replace that vehicle. Very long process in order to actually acquire a new truck, so the real work started a couple months ago to start putting specifications together. Ends up being generally between 90 and 100 pages of specifications for a fire truck. So it's not something you just put together on a Friday afternoon and say it's close enough. It does take a few months of work.
It's not like CarMax, you can just pick one off the lot and...
No, most of them are custom built. There are some stock units, but even those, generally it's stock to a point, and then you have to do the customization of it.
Mm-hmm. So I have heard that number, 1.3 million, often enough that it sounds normal to me. But I remember when I first heard it, I said, 1.3 million for one truck? So let's talk a little bit about what goes into that fire truck and how costs have changed and the time frames have changed in the last few years. Even I think it was COVID. It was a big change, right?
Right before COVID, and then once we got into COVID, it only kind of made things a bit worse. Since then, we've had about a 30 to 40% increase in the overall cost of a fire truck. So that's significant, mm-hmm. right? That's not something that towns can just be like, that's normal. It is absolutely not normal. So even I look at it and go, wow.
Yeah. I
remember we were spending $700,000 for an engine, or even back when they were $500,000. So huge changes that have come down the pipe. Some of those are changes that are created by additional regulations. So EPA regulations in terms of the emissions of the vehicle have mm-hmm. driven up some of the cost. Mm-hmm. And then just the cost of the parts, right? Mm-hmm. You look at a fire truck from, say, the early 2000s, you were just using a regular 12-volt rocker switch to control most things. Everything was pretty simple. Today, everything's computer controlled. So there's a whole bunch that goes into that. And the interesting part is to look to the future and see how AI is going to actually impact the building of fire trucks in future years, and it's going to be very interesting. They're coming up with algorithms that will allow the trucks to drive to an emergency, place themselves appropriately, and adjust to situations. So it'll be a while before you see that around here, but it is what the future is bringing our way.
When you say drive itself, like a Waymo car,
yeah,
okay,
yeah, they're in trials right now, closed track trials, out in Nevada or someplace in the Southwest. So yeah,
fascinating.
It's coming.
And what's so this truck's primary purpose this is not our tall ladder truck, right?
Nope. So this is a pumper truck. Mm-hmm. So this truck will have 1,000 gallons of water. It'll have hose on it to hook up to fire hydrants to pull into burning buildings or wherever we need to get water. Has a myriad of rescue tools too. Obviously with 495, Route 2, 119, and 2A, we use rescue tools quite often. So we have a ton of capacity for rescue equipment within the truck as well. Because we need it, we use it all the time. So really when we say, well, it's a pumper truck, it's just a fire truck, it's really a giant toolbox on wheels that can mitigate just about any situation that we can imagine.
And the timeline again, when do we expect to see this magnificent new truck?
So 2 to 3 years is the timeline for the build. Right now, it's looking like about 2, but it's all dependent on how many orders go in. So if all of a sudden a city puts in a order for 10 trucks ahead of us, it might push out to 2.5 years, might push out to 3 years. So until we actually get the order in and placed, then we don't know for sure.
Makes sense. Moving away a little bit from the fire engine itself, you and I were talking about the smoke that's visible even today outside, and you were telling me that's from Western Canada.
Yeah, so we're having the air quality right now is not great. Oddly enough, I always know when the smoke's drifting down from Canada because I get essentially allergies from it. So, there's enough allergens around on top of it, but I can always tell when the smoke is down in our area from far away because it picks up all kinds of other stuff in the atmosphere and brings that in with it. So you can definitely see the haze. Those who have compromised respiratory systems are having trouble these days doing sometimes simple things, walking up a flight of stairs and going, wow, why am I having so much trouble just today? And really that's the smoke from the wildfires just disrupting their normal breathing patterns.
And do you have any sense of how under control they are over there?
Absolutely out of control.
Yeah.
So the United States has sent, and this might be a little bit outdated information now, but I believe we sent 29 crews from the United States up to Western Canada to assist, and they continually are losing the battle. New fires are starting. A vast majority of the ones in that area, I believe, are lightning-caused fires, but new fires are occurring. The fires that they have are getting across their containment lines, which is the lines that the firefighters are putting in to get control of them. So they're nowhere near containment or control.
That's unfortunate. Closer to home here, it's been pretty wet, as anybody who has a kid who's been trying to play soccer this season can attest.
Yeah, it rains every weekend.
Every weekend. I think I heard 13 in a row so far.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So right now, are we in good shape in terms of fire risk?
Yeah, right now we're in very good shape because there's just so much moisture in the ground, right? You have a lot of vegetation that has all the available moisture that it needs, so the vegetation's not going to burn. But that doesn't mean that as we get into the summer months and then into the early part of the fall that we could have some drying occurring. At some point it's going to stop raining on the weekends. And it may stop raining altogether for a few weeks, and very quickly we can kind of move ourselves into a wildfire season seemingly out of nowhere. And years like this, you can creep into higher risk conditions without knowing that you're getting into those higher risk conditions because you're like, oh, it's been raining. It keeps raining. There's no way that there could be a wildfire. And 2 or 3 weeks, again, of drying, and all of a sudden you can start to have fires. Yeah. So in Massachusetts, 95 to 97% of fires are caused by humans, whether it's a campfire that somebody didn't put out all the way, somebody who's maybe cutting metal and shoots sparks into something. It could be an automobile that's having a mechanical issue. It could be arson. Only a very small percentage of our fires in a given year are actually naturally occurring fires, which would be from lightning more often than not.
That's very different from Colorado, where I was before we moved here.
Yeah, so it'll be, Colorado's probably 70% human-made, 75% human-made, and then the rest of that is lightning, natural.
Plenty of lightning.
Yep.
We talked about this on another episode, but in terms of fire danger and knowing when we've reached a point where we need to be more cautious, can we go over real quick again what the procedures are for folks who have clippings or other things in their backyard that they wanna burn?
Yeah, so the burning season is January 15th through May 1st, provided that it's favorable weather conditions to do so. So the burning season for this year is over. Doesn't start again until January 15th of next year.
Don't do it, folks.
Yep, don't do it. That's one of the leading causes for wildfires is somebody says, well, it's only a small bit of leaves or some twigs that I have to burn, and it doesn't get extinguished all the way. And all of a sudden, the wind picks up a little bit, and off it goes into the woods or through a field or whatever the case may be. So certainly that's one of the big messages is don't burn out of season, especially on days like this where, not that you should be burning, but if you add smoke to the atmosphere when you already have the Canadian wildfire smoke, it just makes the situation way, way worse for those with compromised respiratory systems. So some other things that we always encourage people to do is, you're going to need to store some of these sticks, branches, et cetera. Make sure you're storing them away from houses, from garages, from barns or sheds, to make sure that if a wildfire does occur, that it doesn't have an avenue to get to your property. So we want to really clear brush and combustibles away from houses. And some of those things are things that are okay, right? So we're looking and going, all right, well, yeah, we attached the fence to our house, but that's fine. Well, really, a fence can give you an avenue for a fire to travel from the woods, catch the fence on fire. From the fence, it gets to, say, the side of the house or the side of the garage. So there's a lot of little things that can be done in order to mitigate that risk. Bark mulch is another one. We have every year dozens of bark mulch fires. We're fortunate that most of them are in places where it's not going to spread anywhere. A lot of those are cigarettes that have been discarded into bark mulch. But in terms of whether it's a commercial building or your house, keeping that bark mulch 18 inches back from the siding is really important. So using something like stone around your foundation doesn't allow for fire to spread from bark mulch to your house. It'll stop hopefully at that stone barrier that you've put there. Bark mulch looks great, but there are some safety concerns that can come out of it.
So that barrier is important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah, any place where you have that bark mulch going right up against your siding is a watch out situation. You gotta pay
Gonna have
close
to go home and
attention.
check the perimeter. And we've been talking about fires a lot, but let's move to another part of your department, which is EMT and taking care of folks. We had an unfortunate incident with a pedestrian being hit. This was, I guess, about 8 weeks ago now.
Yeah, something.
That long.
Yeah.
But fortunately, they were okay, which is great. But so one of the things that we've been working on, even prior to that incident, is better, more safe safety mechanisms for our pedestrians on the roads. And I'm pleased that we did get a state grant for one of those flashing lights. I think everybody around here calls them the Kimball's lights, with the
Yes, yep.
and that's going to be at Goldsmith and Shaker Lane. And then the town itself is going to cover the other three that are needed in that intersection. And then we've got approval for another Kimball's marker at Rogers and Baldwin, which is helpful. And then we're waiting to hear back from the state on one or two others. And you and I were talking about this, how, this, if it's a state road, which in Littleton it often is, we've got, we can't just decide, oh, this is what we're going to do now and go do it. It's a fairly lengthy process of approvals. And
Yeah, there's a whole process to get those signs in, but they definitely make a huge difference, especially ones that are activated by a person walking up to that crosswalk. It can give a really great warning to any drivers, and you can see them from a pretty good distance away. So really gives drivers time to react. It makes the folks that are going to cross the road also stop and be aware of what's around them, so that they can hit the button and look left and right before they try and cross. So that's that's an important piece to it as well. So it really works on two different levels, both the person crossing the road, but warning the folks that are driving on the road.
In terms of pedestrian safety tips, is there anything that you would want to share with our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we do have pedestrians every year that are struck by vehicles, fortunately in low numbers, knock on wood. But one of the things that we often see is folks that are walking at dawn or dusk in dark colors. Really, you want to stick out. Vests are great. Not everybody likes the coolness factor of the
like
vest.
the safety vests.
Yeah, the safety vests. But bright colors, right? You can certainly get a T-shirt that's a bright color, whether it's red, white sticks out quite well this time of year. Not so much in the winter, but certainly those are some of the things that can kind of help make sure that the drivers are actually seeing you while you're out there, and just be aware, right? Be aware of what's around you, what vehicles are doing. Lots of times you see people who have headphones on and they're not really aware of the space that they're in or the danger that they could be in.
Right. And do you recommend that folks walk against traffic or with traffic?
I always walk against traffic,
Yeah.
so you can see what the drivers are doing. That's how I've always.
It's hard to know to move out of the way if it's behind you.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
has always been what I thought, but
Yep.
yeah. But most of the time you see folks walking with, so I find.
Yeah, I think it's kind of 50-50. Yeah.
So, all right. So on the to-do list for everyone is to check their houses and make sure they don't have that bark mulch all the way up.
Absolutely.
And make sure before they go on that evening walk with the dog that they've got some visibility
Absolutely.
in mind as they're getting ready to go. I think we can leave everyone with that.
Yeah, I think so. And if there's ever any questions about things like, hey, is my bark mulch too close? Certainly give us a call at the fire department, and we can help work through it with you.
That's great. Thanks very much for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That's all for today. Thanks, everyone.